Hello, everybody. Welcome to ISC 110. I'm, of course, Professor S. And today, what we are talking about are two things. First thing is the history of the internet. Getting more into the internet than we did last class. And then also, we are talking about the group project that's due before class on Monday. All right, let's begin. So, first of all, the internet and the World Wide Web. So first of all, let's begin with the history of the internet. So a lot of people credit the internet beginning with ARPANET. In 1960s, it was developed to connect four sites: UCLA, Stanford Research Institute, University of California, Santa Barbara, and University of Utah, which are, pretty relatively close to each other. The furthest one probably being Utah. But anyways, one of the ideas was this was during the Cold War. Big thing was communism and the threat of the Soviets coming in and taking out communications. So they wanted a way that they wanted to try to create not just a way for computers to talk to each other, but for a way for them to talk to each other so that if one of them was knocked out, everything would fall apart. And ARPANET began with that kind of thing, and it kind of grew to have that sort of mesh network background. After a few years, there was more computers that were added to it, and actually there was more networks that were developed as well, and they eventually kind of formed together. ARPANET dissolved as no longer being supported by the government, and the keys were handed off to NSFNet, and that became the internet backbone. But so at that point, what the internet was a way for it was mostly used for education at that point. So different schools could send papers to each other and that sort of thing. By the early 90s, there were it moved from being controlled from NSFNet to ISPs, the control, and what ISPs are, internet service providers, were the it provide internet for everybody. For commercial use is a big thing, and that public accessibility came in the very early 90s. Because before then, you couldn't use it for commercial use at all. So early 90s, it became available. And also, another thing that came out was the World Wide Web at CERN. And the idea behind the World Wide Web is that it created something so that people could kind of go from one web page to another relatively easily. And it relied very heavily on the technology of hypertext. So the links that you click when you go into another website, it's using that. And so now our concept of the internet is based, is like usually when we're thinking of the internet, we're thinking of the World Wide Web. And they're oftentimes used interchangeably, but the internet has been around way longer and can do more than just the World Wide Web. And you kind of know this, but maybe you just don't realize how different it is. But anyways, as the internet was growing, there was different ways that people were getting their web pages. So one of the easy things is that what people would do is they would have links to other web pages on their page themselves. They would have banners as like one of the things I remember a lot. So it'd be just this banner, which is like this graphic thing that would kind of advertise what this other website was, and you could click it and you could go. And so that was a big way of how people learned about news sites and went to them and surfed the web. Another way was through search engines like Yahoo. Yahoo was one of the first. It was there was other ones at the time, but a lot of them have gone away. Other ones maybe you've heard of were Alta Vista, Lycos, those, and they're not really as prevalent. But Yahoo is still kicking. Another one that kind of popped up that kind of changed the way we have done the internet was Ask Jeeves, because it allowed people, it was a little bit more accessible at the time, because you could actually ask a question to find something online. Now you could still do that on Google, but it was kind of a big deal to not have to think as much about about how you were going to search. You could just ask a question and it could give you an answer. And then since then, in the early 2000s, the internet really exploded, and it's becoming more and more of how we think of it today. Anyways, the other thing that I have on here is the web crawler. And web crawlers are used by search engines to crawl through those hyperlinks and index the web, so that when somebody searches something on a search engine, they have they can help link it to people who search for it. The other thing I have on here is the deep web, and the deep web is usually considered something nefarious, but it's really not. I mean, I guess it could be, but the concept in itself is not. Anyways, what the dark web is by definition is something that's not accessible by a search engine, which maybe sound nefarious, but it's used all the time by normal people all the time. In fact, you've probably used it a bunch. The idea is like, think about your Facebook account, think about your bank account, think about all these different accounts that you can get through the internet, but you can't just search for, right? I mean, you could search for, let's say your email account. So you can search for Penn State and get onto Penn's a link that will take you to the login, but that doesn't actually take you to your. I can't search for it and get into your email without your login, which is fine. I'm just saying, like, that's part of the deep web, and it makes up a really big chunk of the internet. So again, not something that you can search. All right. One of the important things that has helped the internet is the different protocols. In fact, that's really what the internet is. It's a bunch of standards that allows the computers to talk to each other. It's not so much as a physical thing as it is a bunch of standards that different computers agree to use so that they can work. One of them is the TCP, and this came up with the guy that was credited for inventing this is Vint Cerf, and he actually came to talk to IST graduating class a couple years ago, which is really cool. But anyways, the idea is with a TCP, the Transmission Control Protocol, what it does is it takes a packet of information and divides it out, and it sends it through the networks to the location. Now, not all of those packets might be going the same path. Maybe they are, but the idea is like they all are eventually reaching the same destination. And when they reach that same destination, it checks to make sure that it has everything, that the packets are make the completed file. And if it doesn't, like maybe something got lost along the way, then it asks for it to be resent, and once it gets it, it will give it back to the recipient to view. And the idea is, it's like, this sounds like this takes a while, and it really doesn't. This like happens really fast, and it happens all the time. And it was one of those things that allowed the internet to be the connection of computers all around the world. The other protocol that's about that same layer is the user datagram protocol. And what this does is it doesn't wait as long to make sure it has everything. So the idea is sometimes you don't really care so much if you get all the packets, as long as you get as it reads the document as fast as possible. And so it's compromising that reliability for speed, essentially, is what it is. And that's really the main thing that I want you to take away from this. So an example of using the TCP is like going to a normal web page, and like a very common example of UDP is when you play games online. So if you think about it, like everybody's connecting to a server, but you don't want to you don't want to waste time with making sure that you know exactly where people are, because anyways, with UDP, I don't want to make things too confusing than they have to be. UDP, you're like, it's oftentimes with gaming, because it's like you can miss a little bit of information and still get an idea of where things are going. Also, oftentimes with streaming, it would be more for UDP. Okay? Because like if you've noticed, like with streaming and things like that, sometimes the quality of the video gets bad, and that's because not all the packets came in. But it's oftentimes it's just like you just let it happen, and it will kind of fix itself, or not necessarily fix itself, but keep going, because you just want to watch the video. You're okay with some of the packets not being there all the way. Anyways. All right, so there's more than the World Wide Web and how we use the internet. So one of the ways is VoIP, which stands for Voice over Internet Protocol. So it's another protocol, and the way that it works is it's connecting it's telephone through a network. Okay, oftentimes instead of going through a phone line, you might prefer to use the internet instead. And there's a lot of different reasons for it, but like Skype is often considered VoIP, and things like that. Another one, and this is more way older than the World Wide Web itself, is email. Email is where you're sending messages through the internet from one place to another. So you might have access to your email from the World Wide Web, but the program for sending email through the internet is actually a different thing. The other thing that I want to kind of point out is the IoT, which stands for Internet of Things. And so Internet of Things is the different things that hook up to the internet through that aren't your computer, your tablet, your phone. It's those weird things. So like smart light bulbs, smart fridge, smart microwave, smart toaster, all these different things. And we'll kind of get back to these in a little bit when we think about the security of them for like a little bit. But it's something else that uses that you interact with the internet without using the World Wide Web. The last thing that we're going to talk about as far as the internet's concerned is VPN. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network, and the idea was it was something that originally started as a secure connection for large companies so that people could work from home. Right? So think of the big corporations, like, I don't know, like GE or Procter & Gamble or things like that. There was laptops were available. People could connect to the internet, but they needed a secure way to do it. So enter VPNs, which could connect through secure lines through the internet. But as the years have passed, VPNs have been more accessible to more people. You might be on one yourself. And so the main thing for VPNs is privacy and security. There is now a kind of a third reasoning popping up, and that's for having it's for proxy reasons, but we'll get into that in just a second. So anyways, one of the things that the VPN does is it can encrypt messages. So you send your information to the VPN, and the VPN will encrypt it and possibly send it through safe routes till it connects to another computer, which will send information and make sure that the VPN will make sure that it is also secure. So anyways, as opposed to your computer connecting directly to a website where if you have any sort of bad actors, they could intercept it and maybe get it. And so the thought is that they are less likely to get it when it's through a VPN. So that's like one of the ways that like it's privacy and security. Another thing is like if you notice, right here, another place that it's kind of secure is that if like the person kind of goes here, attacks the data here, that they intercept the information, they don't know that it's coming to you. They don't know it's yours. They just see information going to this other server, and that's one of the joys of the proxy servers. And so anyways, one of the reasons why people also like VPNs is that it says that they're in different locations. So there's websites that offer content restrictions based upon the country. And if you use a VPN, you can use a server that is in that country, and it will see that server that is in the country, and it will say, oh, okay, well, as long as you're in the country, it's fine. However, I've noticed that in some situations, some of those sites will say, oh, we recognize this server. We recognize that you could be trying to sidestep the country restrictions, and so you can't. We won't do anything with this address. So you have to just disconnect your VPN at that point and use it if you want to do it. So anyways, that's one of the ways that it can hide your location, by you connecting to something at a different place and then communicating so that people don't know where exactly it's going. The one other thing that I want to emphasize is that if you are considering getting a VPN, make sure you research the different ones. Because it's like sometimes what people want is privacy from their ISPs. They don't want their ISPs to know all their business, and so they might use a VPN. But there's been some VPNs that have been known to sell information to people, to different companies and stuff like that. So you got to make sure you trust your VPN, because your data is going through them. So you got to make sure you trust them. If security is an issue for you, you want to make sure it's somebody that you trust. So just make sure you do your research. Anyways, for the group project, you've been assigned to different groups. Make sure you work with your group to do the assignment. I've been like, some of the people have said, well, do I really need to use Box? And for the first assignment, you don't necessarily need to, I guess. Just make sure you answer these questions. Okay, and it's all there in the page, in the modules page for this week's classes, or class information. And that is all I have. I will see you all Monday, when we will talk more about the group project in how we will do things. Okay? Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please press the like button. It lets me know I'm doing something right. If you have any questions about any of the content, please send an email through Canvas to both me and the rest of the teaching team, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. Do not send it through normal email. You will not get as fast response. If you have any suggestions for how I can make these videos better, please leave in the comments below. Don't forget to roundhouse kick the subscribe button and ring the bell to get notified for when I post the next video. Anyway, I think that's good for now, and I will see you all next class.